Hello, everyone. Welcome to ICAS Expert Voice Initiative Program. My name is Nong Hong from the Institute for China-American Studies based here in Washington, D.C. The EVI is a series of a sit-down interview with leading experts who will talk to our audience on many of the key issues on the U.S.-China relations and also on other global affairs, including ocean governance, which we'll be addressing today. Early this year, ICAS has launched a new series of EVI with a focus on the Arctic. The idea is to host leading experts from the 5 Arctic coastal states and also other stakeholder nations to share the research and expertise on different dimensions of these critical issues on the Arctic. So far, our Arctic series have already explored this critical issue from a Canadian perspective, a Chinese perspective, and an American perspective, with 3 thought-provoking episodes that spark a lot of discussion and also positive feedback. So today, it's my honor to welcome Dr. Irina Strelnikova, who will bring a vital Russian perspective on many of the key issues on the Arctic. Dr. Irina Strelnikova is Associate Professor from the Faculty of World Economy and International Affairs at National Research University Higher School of Economics of Russia. So welcome, Irina.
Hello, dear colleagues, dear audience. For me, it's a real honor and pleasure to be here today and to discuss really important issues related to Arctic governance, international cooperation in the Arctic, and of course, Sino-Russian relations in the Arctic.
Great.
So, because this region is really becoming even more and more important day by day, and that's why it's important to find ways how to cooperate fruitfully together.
Great, thank you. The good beginning. So, could you tell our audience how to define the Russians' Arctic overall strategy?
If I can choose only 2 words, for example, I will choose that a Russian Arctic agenda is really peaceful and constructive. And I would like to prove this thesis because if you look, for example, at all our Russian documents, official documents, Arctic strategy, and so on, so you can find that Russia considers Arctic region as extremely territory of peace and low military tension. And of course, this is territory of stability. And we would like to develop constructive dialogue and mutual beneficial cooperation with all countries who would like to do the same. And of course, if you look at our Arctic agenda, which was adopted in 2020, and it is called, for example, a strategy for the development of the Arctic zone of the Russian Federation and national security up to 2035, you can see our Russian priorities, key principles, and many ideas that we would like to do in our Arctic zone. And they are, for example, the development of social economic sphere, the development and modernization of ports of the Arctic zone, especially the transport routes such as the Northern Sea route, of course, support for science and technological cooperation, climate change and environmental protection, and so on, and of course, international cooperation in the Arctic region. And also we have another document, very important document. It is external policy concept of the Russian Federation, which was adopted in 2023. And this document also emphasizes the importance of establishing cooperation with non-Arctic countries on mutual beneficial terms. And especially we mean the important cooperation with China and India. And in order to sum up Russian Arctic agenda, and I would like to stress that it has always been so open for constructive mutual beneficial dialogue in Arctic with any foreign party on fair terms. But of course, this, however, presumes the withdrawal of Western sanctions because Russia advocates for peaceful resolution of the international issues related to the Arctic, proceeding from the premise of the special responsibility of the Arctic states for sustainable development of the region. And finally, I would like to note that China has been a privileged and undoubtedly helpful partner in the Arctic region for Russia for many years.
Thank you. That's a very good overall picture to understand Russia's Arctic strategy, emphasize on cooperation. So my next question is, I'm wondering whether Russia has undergone any significant change since the increasing conflict with Ukraine since 2022. Has the conflict led to any increasing militarization of the Arctic, or has Russia's economic priority scaled back and due to the Western sanctions? You mentioned a little bit in your beginning.
Thank you for this question, but I would like also to mention that we don't have any significant changes because, as I have already told, we adopted our Arctic strategy in 2020. It was before then the situation which happened in 2022, and all our main key priorities in the Arctic region are still the same because Moscow's top priorities in Arctic has always been the ensuring the national interests of Russia, such as promoting the development of the Northern Sea Route, promoting peaceful and mutual beneficial cooperation, preserving ecosystems, and of course, to protect the traditional way of life for the indigenous peoples. And despite the efforts of the NATO countries and their allies aimed at destabilization and hard security situation in the Arctic, I would say that Russian diplomats and officials have been promoting the peaceful international cooperation in the region. And we have quite many economic and other initiatives that are operational now. And I think that we discussed these initiatives today as well. And also the well-known Russian-Chinese subcommittee on the development of the Northern Sea Route was launched in 2022, despite all sanctions. And also we had in March in Murmansk quite interesting international Arctic forum. During this forum, numerous bilateral and multilateral Arctic projects has been introduced. So we don't have any changes in our Arctic agenda, our Arctic priorities after 2022, because we're still open for constructive cooperation with different countries, and we would like to create different projects together.
Thank you. So there is a lot of debate and analytical comments on the relationship between Russia and China in the Arctic. And you mentioned a little bit about the cooperation. I'm wondering whether you can give more examples on how Russia and China cooperate in the Arctic, say in the fields of energy, infrastructure, scientific cooperation, among others, if you could share with us.
Yes, thank you for this question. And I would like to mention that China is really our crucial partner nowadays. And China has invested more than $90 billion in projects related to especially the extraction and transportation of energy sources in the Russian Arctic. And if we look at our joint statements, I mean, documents that was adopted by our leaders, for example, since 2017 up to the last joint statement, which was made in 2024. So we can see that all these joint statements between our countries have a special area related to Arctic cooperation in different directions. For example, in preservation of ecological ecosystems in the Arctic, in the development of the Northern Sea Route, in shipbuilding, in climate change, environmental protection, and so on. So the most important point that we have this cooperation not only on scientific level, but only we have it fixed on the official level. And if we look at our interesting projects, so I would say that yes, we have very good cooperation in the area of the Northern Sea Route, because in 2017 a permanent working group on cooperation in the Arctic between Russia and China was established. And this group has meetings every year. And since this year, the active cooperation in the field of the Northern Sea Route and the infrastructure of the Northern Sea Route was launched. Also, we have quite good cooperation in the field of energy, because Chinese companies has its shares in such infrastructure energy projects in the Arctic zone, like Yamal LNG, for example, Arctic LNG 2 and Udmurtneft. It's also interesting energy projects As for scientific cooperation, in 2022, we created the Russian-Asian Consortium for Arctic Research. And if we talk about this consortium, all Russian universities are members of this consortium that deal with Arctic issues, and also several Chinese universities, such as, for example, Harbin Engineering University and Ocean University and some others. And also since 2016, we started created a common joint research centers, such as Russian-Chinese and Chinese-Russian research centers in the Arctic. And also we had several joint expeditions in the Arctic zone and in 2016, 2018, 2020. So yes, we have a lot in common. We have quite many projects. And if we talk about the last projects, for example, last year, we discussed in June in 2024, Rosatom and the Hainan New Shipping Company signed memorandum of understanding to create a year-round container line between the two countries, which will be operating along the northern route. And also it's important that a subcommittee was created that deal with Arctic issues between Rosatom and China Minister of Transport. So we have really a lot in common, and I think that we are only starting our cooperation in the Arctic.
Well, thank you. That's a lot of information to digest in terms of bilateral relations. And then my next question, a little bit critical, because Russia is a major Arctic state and China is a non-Arctic state, but has interest in the Arctic. I understand that although we have the two countries a lot of cooperation, but there's also skepticism because how to look at China's presence in the Arctic. Some of the people analytical Arctic will say that because of Western sanctions that push Russia to rely more on China. I'm wondering whether you agree with that, because China is remain one of the major investors in the Yamar LNG and Arctic number 2 LNG. I'm just wondering whether this shift impacts Russia's long-term economic strategy, and is Moscow comfortable with increasing Chinese stake in many of the infrastructure building in Russia?
No, I don't think so. And that's important because we started our cooperation long before the sanctions and the 2022 situation. Because now I explained that we have our common project, joint project since at least 2017. And I would say that our Russian pivot to the Asian countries' cooperation was not concerned the situation with Western sanctions. It is because that if we compare our Arctic strategies, I mean Russian Arctic strategy and Chinese Arctic strategy, so we could see many common interests. We could see the same way of constructing these documents, because all these documents are about constructive dialogue in the region, rational use of resources, of transport and connectivity, and so on. And that's why we are quite similar to each other. And because of this common interests, we can cooperate together. Yes, I think that our cooperation is extremely important, but it started not because sanctions or some other things. Maybe it can straighten our cooperation, but was not the reason of such cooperation, I would say.
Thank you. That's a very clear message here. So let's move on to the United States. And US also another Arctic coastal state. And I think compared with previous years, the US increasing more attention to its Arctic strategy. And one of the reasons that when I read many of the literature, one of the reasons is driven by the increasing cooperation between China and Russia, and the US potentially see this as a threat to its security. I don't know how does Russia respond to this narrative?
As for this narrative, Russian officials insisted that the Arctic Partnership is not targeted at any third countries and contributes to ensuring the Arctic region remains free from discord and tension. The US and the allies have been criticized for politicization and unjustified securitization of the Russian and Chinese peaceful presence in the Arctic region. So yes, we have our official documents and we have activities, very peaceful and constructive activities in the Arctic region. So that is why, of course, we don't agree with such position of the Western countries, and that is why our action was like I explained now.
Thank you. And the U.S. currently has revised its Arctic naval presence, talking about building, increasing investment in icebreaking vessels, and it's working with Finland and working with Canada to build up its the number of icebreaking vessels. I'm just wondering, does Russia view this as a legitimate concern, and how does Russia respond by, say, increasing military presence in the Arctic as well?
To be honest, this is not the first time when the United States is planning to launch a project related to icebreaker fleet. But I would say that so far none of such projects has been successful. And at the same time, Russia has really a unique icebreaker fleet, which includes the atomic vessels and atomic vessels of new types, I would say. And of course, we have a very good military capabilities of Russian Navy and Air Force. So all this allows Moscow to consider the direct Arctic presence of the US. But of course, we see that last year, in June and July last year, the Canada, Finland, and the United States signed memorandum of cooperation in the framework of Ice Pact project, which aimed at modernizing of icebreaker fleet. Yes, we think that it's important to pay attention and to have this further observation of the situation. But as I have already told, that's not the first attempt to organize such fleet icebreakers. So I'm not sure that it will be successful. Also because there is some tension between Canada and the United States now. So we will see, but I think that the Russian icebreaker fleet is really the best in the world.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so about the US and Russia, I think the US-Russian talk in Saudi Arabia and then the phone call between Trump and your President Putin suggests a potential opening for peace negotiation in the Ukraine crisis and a possible maybe restart in the bilateral relations. Do you see any prospects for cooperation between Russia and United States and other regions?
Yes, I think it's possible because Russia is open for constructive dialogue, peaceful international cooperation in the Arctic on equal terms with all countries that have this constructive agenda towards Russia. And also, at last forum, Arctic International Forum, our president stated that we can expect the renewal cooperation with Western states in the Arctic somewhere in the future. But it's important that this situation is possible only if the sanctions, all sanctions will be cancelled. And only in this case, the dialogue with key Western countries is possible. And of course, we need to restore our partnership, or not partnership, but activity, full activity in all important Arctic institutions, I would say. But yes, it's possible. And also, I think that the United States are really interested in an area of mining of rare earth metals in the Russian Arctic. But it was announced not far long ago. But yes, it's also possible only if we don't have any sanctions, if all sanctions will be cancelled.
Great. So I would like to move on to Russia's relationship with other stakeholders, and including other states and also non-other states. Let's start with Finland and then Sweden. Their accession to NATO and also increasing like military cooperation, military activities in the region. And how is Russia adjusting its military strategy and in this region response? I'm wondering whether Russia will consider like moving closer with other states, including China and Brazil and other global South states, or it will prioritize unilateral deterrence through its North Fleet capability.
Thank you for this question. And as a matter of fact, Russia has been adjusting its military posture in the Arctic since 2014. As for reaction to Finland and Sweden's accessions to NATO, it was mentioning the Ocean 2024 naval exercise aimed at bolstering preparedness of the Russian Navy to possible Western hostilities in the Baltic Sea and several seas in the Arctic. And this exercise can be considered symmetrical response to the self-evident increase in NATO military activities in the Arctic over the past several years. And since the Arctic affairs are a matter of national security to Russia, Russia prioritizes a unilateral deterrence based on capabilities of the Northern Fleet and nuclear objects in the High North. So yes, for us, it's we prioritize unilateral, not bilateral or something like this in this case, I would say.
Okay, thank you. My understanding when I reading all these Nordic states like Denmark and Iceland, my understanding, I could be wrong, have kind of avoided direct confrontation with Russia in the Arctic. Do you see like Moscow exploring this like sort of a softer relationship to mitigate isolation?
Yes, I think that Russia is not isolated at all. And if we talk about Denmark and Iceland, so we don't have we don't exploit in this softer relationship to mitigate isolation because since Denmark has been openly supporting the armed forces of Ukraine and Iceland, provides access to its ports to NATO navies, we have this tension between Russia and these countries. And moreover, I would say that Denmark has been openly politicizing the issue of the indigenous peoples in Russia based on false narratives of colonial oppression and direct misinformation. And that is why I don't think that the case of Greenland, which is now at least now part of Denmark, can somehow mitigate these tensions. And so no, I don't think that we use this in situation with these two countries.
Oh, thank you for correcting my impression while reading from some of the literatures. It's good to hear from a real Russian experts on these issues. And then about India. I know India has a lot of increasing interest in their energy and exploration in the Arctic with Russia. Could you give us some example whether any ongoing project with both Russia and India working together, not only in energy, if there's other areas that I might have missed and you can share with us?
Yes, India is also interested in the Arctic region. And for example, in the middle of March, we had a big forum, another forum India, where we could share all our projects, ideas for cooperation. And as you told, we have quite good cooperation in the energy field, especially in oil extraction. We have some joint projects such as Vostok Oil and some other one, Korneft, for example, projects. As for shipbuilding, we also have quite a good relationship in this area because last year Rosatom ordered several non-nuclear icebreakers from Indian shipyard in order to use it in the NSR. And also we signed memorandum between Arctic and Antarctic institution and the key Indian scientific center, Polar Center, to cooperate in the framework of the ice resistant platform, which is called North Pole, and to organize the common expedition. And also, if we look at our joint statements, for example, at least at a joint statement of 2024, which was adopted in July last year, we could see a special section related to cooperation in the Far East and in the Arctic. We adopted the principles of such cooperation, and it was stressed the importance of cooperation in the framework of transport corridors, such as Vladivostok-Chennai transport corridor and the Northern Route transport corridor. And we also created a special subcommittee between our countries in order to promote such cooperation. Of course, it's not, we don't have so many projects like we have, for example, with China, but India is also interested.
Thank you. The last question is about the Arctic Council. I think Russia has historically, traditionally emphasized Arctic Council's importance, but because of the conflict since 2022 and Arctic Council, many of the working group, most activity has been paused. When Norway resumed the chair, there was like, let's say, virtual meeting. I'm just wondering how Russia and Arctic policy making adapted to this exclusion currently from many of the Arctic Council activities.
Russia still considers Arctic Council as an important format and of Arctic governance. And moreover, I think that this format could give some kind of prospects of continuation of interaction with Western countries in the Arctic, and we have this opportunity in future. But I would say that we have opportunity to cooperate in the framework of Arctic Council between during last year. We participated, Russian representatives participated in meetings of all 6 working groups of the Arctic Council in online format, but nevertheless, it was possible. And I think that this is really a good sign, and we still can hope that somehow we can make our cooperation more effective. But of course, it's important to cancel all the sanctions, and only in this case, I think that we can come to those level of international cooperation in the framework of Arctic Council that we had before, for example, 2022. But nevertheless, I would like to mention, so we have maybe some other possible formats for a sustainable development agenda, for promoting sustainable development agenda. And BRICS, for example, is a very good format because BRICS has good political weight on the international arena. It has a good experience in sustainable development agenda, and all members, BRICS members and BRICS partners are interested in cooperation in the Arctic region. So, of course, Arctic Council is extremely important format, and I really do hope that we can cooperate more effectively, maybe in the near future in the framework of this format. But we have other formats, other platforms where can we promote the sustainable development agenda, because Arctic region is extremely important region, and not for only Arctic countries, but all over the world, because those changes that happens in the Arctic region can affect other countries as well. So we could find the way how cooperate constructively and fruitfully.
Yeah, that's a very good answer. I recall like last year or 1 year before, I hosted a workshop on inviting 5 non-Arctic state speakers from China, India, Singapore, and where else? South Korea and Japan. The question is whether Arctic Council will be still effective without Russian participation. The question thrown out, and we have a universal answer is not. So we need given geographical in the region economic scale. So it's good that to hear that you are very positive on Russia will continue find a way in terms of cooperation through other forums, and really hope that Arctic Council will resume its functionality in ocean governance soon. Do you have anything to add? Otherwise, I will be a good conversation.
Yes, I just would like to add that, of course, we appreciate the position of non-Arctic countries, because I absolutely agree that it's not possible to cooperate in Arctic without Russia, because Russia has around 44% of the whole Arctic territories, and we can see that it's not really possible. So we are open for constructive dialogue. We stress this in all forums, so meetings, and I hope that maybe in the near future the situation is getting better, maybe after the constructive dialogue with the US or something like this. And if we could find the solution, the situation maybe really is getting better. But we are ready for cooperation on constructive base and for mutual beneficial terms. And I hope that Arctic region will be a really important region for every country, and we could find ways how to cooperate together.
Thank you very much. And Dr. Irina Strelnikova, that's a very conversation. We cover a lot. And I'm pretty sure our audience will be very interested in watching the video when we're going to release next week. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the invitation.